Hello and welcome, everyone. I am so glad to be here with you on this episode of Elian's Joy. I'm your host, Elian Han. I am a executive coach. I am a trauma expert, and I am bringing this show to you every week to give you a lot of information to become more into a joyful and peaceful and happy place in your life. So, yes, as a mentor and coach, I give you tips. I give you things to think about. I have amazing guests on that are always contributing to some amazing content and thoughts for life. And today I want to talk about self-compassion, something that I have to learn, that I had to learn, something when it comes to self-compassion that I had to be really more aware about at different times in my life. In the last couple of years, I found myself um, more and more to get a deeper understanding of self-compassion. And I want to share some things with you today. So let's talk about that self-compassion component and what that really all entails. What is self-compassion? How can we define that? We would say really that self-compassion is treating ourselves with the same kindness, with the same care, and with the same understanding that we would offer to a friend. So, what we would do to others, we would do to ourselves. It is about acknowledging our own suffering, our own responding to certain situations with warmth. That's definitely something that I had to learn instead of self judgment and harsh self thoughts, right? So, we tend to go to the negative thoughts. We tend to go into the deeper layers. So, I'll say, well, it's my fault. We tend to create shame and feelings of guilt around it. And if we are treating ourselves with more empathy and with more compassion, then we come not to that place of self-pity and indulging in negative thinking, but we are better related to ourselves. We are nicer to ourselves. This sounds so easy, but it's definitely not an easy thing to do. So imagine that you say to yourself, or imagine a friend, right, that goes through something and it makes a mistake at work and they feel awful about that. What do you do? What do I do for that friend? I won't berate them. I'm going to probably reassure that mistakes are human and that, I'm going to remind them of their strength and that this is just very normal, that everybody goes through it, and offer that compassion in a sense of the same. I would offer the same to me. So if I would make a mistake at work, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I beat myself up and I'm going to just do this again and I'm never going to get it right and I'm never going to do it right, and staying into that negative self-talk, I have to learn to say, this is okay. I've been through this and it is okay. Everybody does it, and recognize it as something that is something that you can understand and not have to beat yourself up about. Right. So this is a difficult thing sometimes because we tend to go to that negative self-talk. We tend to go to those negative feelings. We tend to go to those feelings of guilt and shame. So it's really not always easy. But if you imagine that what you would do for a friend, if you would do that for yourself, then you come to an easier place for yourself in general in life. So we have to recognize the suffering. There's a couple of elements to this compassion, this self-compassion. We have to recognize that we are constantly doing it. That is always the first thing that I talk about, right? We have to create some sense of awareness about the fact that we are not giving ourselves enough love. We have to be in that state of recognizing that self-suffering in this case. And then the second thing that comes to this, the second component, is that we also have to recognize that this is universal. Understanding that suffering is a universal human experience, that we go through mistakes, that we go through pain, that we go through trauma, that we go through things that were brought on by ourselves, and that we go through things that were brought on by others, experiences, by happenings, right, by events. We have to understand that it's a human experience. And we have to also be moved and connected with things and with these experiences. So if we're feeling moved and we feel that we're going through suffering and we are emotionally connected to pain that we're feeling, then of course we can make action. We can step into action. We can do something about it, right? And we have to, number four, also tolerate those feelings. that are not comfortable. We have to tolerate them and we have to let them be there. Sometimes that's one of the most important things, but also the most the most important thing that we do to ourselves. We just want to immediately have that gratification of not having to deal with it and not be there in that place of suffering or in that place of allowing those emotions to be there, right? That discomfort to be there. So we have to understand that. And then the very last thing, of course, a component of this self-compassion, of these self-compassion elements, is that we have to act and alleviate ourselves to a higher level of understanding. We have to alleviate ourselves out of this always having the same reaction pattern, always driving into the same dynamics, because maybe that is not working for you. Maybe you are worn out. Maybe you are. Here are some of the symptoms that can come up when you are not giving yourself enough self-love and self-compassion. You are constantly in a state of self-criticism. You're constantly in a state of shame or guilt, right? Trauma can leave that behind. You can have these harsh inner critics come up. You can have those feelings of shame, being inadequate come up. So if you can soften this voice inside, then that is when you start becoming better at self-compassion and self-love. So you have to understand that it's there. You have to understand and acknowledge and become aware of the fact that this is something you're always doing. You're always criticizing yourself for something, or you're always being that harsh person to yourself, right? You're not good enough. You're not perfect enough. All these things that come up. A couple of weeks ago, I talked about being perfect all the time, right? Be that perfectionism. So if you are in an understanding self-compassion and in awareness of what self-compassion will do for you and self-love will do for you, then you can reduce these feelings of self-criticism and shame. You can definitely come to a bigger understanding of it. Let's say that something gets triggered and you might usually tell yourself, I just don't want to feel this way. I'm just going to hop out of it. With self-compassion, you might say something like, it's okay that I feel like this. I'm in a safe place now. And it's natural for my body and for my mind to feel this way. It might not be comfortable, but you're telling yourself that it's okay that you're having these feelings and emotions and that you are triggered by something and that you might have to take a little bit of a distance from the day, from the world, from your surroundings, from everything that's going on, just to allow these feelings to sit with you, right? The second thing that self-compassion and self-love and self-care does for you is that it will lower your cortisol levels and it increase resilience. Because studies show that self-compassion can lower stress hormones, right? You're not going into this anger mode or into this, I feel guilt and shame, and you just want to solve it all right away. But you can just lower these stress hormones and increase levels of resilience instead. You're getting better at sitting with it. You're getting better at allowing some difficult situations in a more calm and in a more clear way. It creates clarity for yourself. You can just sit and look at the situation, become aware of it, allow it to be uncomfortable, and then with a sense of self-compassion and some exercises that I'm going to give you, some handy tips that I'm going to give you, you can allow those feelings to be there. And that's very important, just to sit with it once in a while. So instead of spiraling into an anxiety or stressful situation, an anxiety attack or panicking attack, you can practice self-love and self-compassion by saying something like, I'm already doing the best I can. It's okay to feel a little bit overwhelmed. And again, just taking a deep breath, right? In the third place, what happens when you allow yourself to be self-compassionate? You will have a sense of acceptance about the things that are going on around you. It's also one thing that I read in the past about having a state of mind that allows for a lot of things to happen without the necessity to label it. Right? So we can feel broken, we all have trauma, we all have certain trauma triggers, a lot of responses and symptoms to that. But self-compassion allows us to embrace all these experiences as allowing them to just be, even the painful parts, even the things that we don't like, even sometimes the people around us that we don't really feel compassionate about in the moment, right? It fosters greater emotional healing. Again, just to accept the things as they are. It's a really difficult word. It's a really important word. I use it a lot in coaching, and it sounds so easy, but it is so difficult for us sometimes to accept certain situations or certain reactions of people, certain happenings, the things that were done to us by events or by people or by the past, right? Sometimes that's hard to accept. So to promote self-healing and self-acceptance, we have to step into that place of acceptance. That's not an easy thing to do, and definitely it wasn't easy for me in the past. I've done so much work on that because in the first place, I remember in the past, and I tell you that so much, but I remember in the past that um, I was very dependent on situations, others, people, again, to give me a sense of happiness and to just sit there and wait on things to happen for me that would make me feel good or that make me feel happy. And I had to get into a bigger part of my life. I had to work for a decade. I worked on it. For years, I worked on that growth and on not necessarily change, right? I don't like to use the word change, but I had to work on that inner growth and that inner and mastery, that self-development to understand that things that I don't like happen. And actually, I had to come to an understanding of acceptance and knowing that when I don't like things, they're usually for the best. They're happening to me for a reason. And I have to create a way out. I have to create an answer. I have to create a solution. God is telling me something. The universe is telling me something. Whatever your belief system is there, something is being told. Something is shown to you that might create discomfort or that might create something that is really, really difficult to overcome. And of course, especially traumatic experiences are difficult to overcome. But it is showing you how you become more resilient and how you can make and start changes and create different things for yourself in your life. And it's very important to understand that even if we don't go, even if we don't have a handle on it in the beginning, just allow that feeling of acceptance to overcome you. It is really, really wonderful when you feel and you can sit with it. So with that self-compassion, again, you can recognize what you have experienced, that it might not have been your fault, and you can release also these feelings of shame and guilt that sometimes come with it. Very important. So with that self-healing and acceptance, you really promote a bigger understanding for the things around you. How can you really start practicing some self-compassion, self-love? How can you start doing that? Not just by those three things that you mindful that your mind have to understand, that you mentally have to understand. But it's very important the things that I just mentioned, right? The fact that you have to practice acceptance, that there is a leveling increase, the level of stress that is increased, right? You don't want to have these cortisol levels, so you want to just bring that down. That is very important. And it's important to reduce that self-criticism. So these three things are definitely coming out of that. But how can we practically do that in daily life? The very first thing that we can use is very compassionate language and practice positive self-talk. And how can we do that? Instead of catching ourselves by saying, I'm such a failure, or catching yourself and saying, such a failure, such a failure, you can rephrase that. You catch yourself, right? You become aware of it, and you rephrase that by saying, I'm going through a tough time. So I'm learning and I'm growing from this. Again, just like I said, there might be a message there. And if you understand that, it's easier to give yourself that language. It's easier to give yourself the fact that it's okay, right? I'm going to practice positive self-talk. It's okay to go through this right now. It's okay that I'm feeling this way. It's okay that I'm upset by it. It's okay that I'm frustrated and irritated. And you can also surround yourself with some items, right, that are really comforting. So things that are your lovely blankie that you like to have close, or you have to maybe a gratitude journal, or you put on that attitude of gratitude by writing about it, by writing wonderful, loving things for yourself and about yourself in that gratitude journal. I have gratitude for myself. Not necessarily the outside world. I know you have a lot of things that you are grateful about or for, also around you, but this is really for yourself. I'm grateful that I am a listening ear. I'm grateful that I am a loving person. I'm grateful that I can find myself in kindness. I am grateful that I am and what I believe in. I'm grateful that I am kind, right? You can write these things down for yourself and really give yourself that love and kindness. I am love. I am kind. I am faithful. I am good. I am just full of awareness of what I am and how I can stand in it, how I can be this person. You can create that self-talk, that little journal, and that compassion for yourself. You can also do it by gestures. One of my mentors, Eric Lofholm, always does that. He always says, pat yourself on your back, raise your right hand, pat yourself on the shoulder, on your back, and say, well done, right? This is going to be a great day. Well done. So just give yourself a big old hug, right? You can do that as well. You can just put your arms around yourself and give yourself a big old hug. I used to, in times of stress, start patting myself, really patting myself, constantly kind of knocking on my heart space. Just giving myself a little bit of awareness and feeling. Just calm down, just like that. Secondly, we want to surround ourselves with people that understand what we're going through, that are supportive and that are positive about the experience that we have. We definitely want to be in that, right? We want to have the people around us that say, I'll leave you alone the whole day, or I'll let you sleep right now, or I know that you're going to meditate, or I know that you just need to do some self-care outside the house. I know that you need to go for a walk. I know that you need to listen. So we want to surround ourselves with people that are of the same sound mind, in the sense of they understand what you need to do for yourself. And you have been able to communicate that. That's very important as well. And of course, in the third place, again, you want to practice the gratitude for yourself as well. You want to see yourself as a wonderful, kind, loving, unique being. We don't have to compare ourselves. We don't have to judge ourselves. You do not want to go there anymore with that harsh judgment. Just practice that loving kindness for yourself. And then sometimes in that, right, we need to adopt a mindful lifestyle. We want to be more present, to have an understanding for this. We want to come in the moment. We want to enjoy the day. Sometimes we don't, because we're so busy with the past and with the future that we're never in the moment. We're not in the day. We are not being in it and being fully aware of what's going around us, because we're constantly looking for answers and solutions for tomorrow or for the past. We're worried, we're anxious. We're just seeking solutions already for things that are not happening yet, right? So come a little bit more into that mindful lifestyle where you can make time to be more present, where you can make time to maybe breathe, or maybe sit in meditation, or again, listen to music or take a walk in nature. Anything that just fits you. Give yourself some time to feel these emotions, reflect on them, and process them. We always want to react. We always come out of the door and go like, ah, right, with an answer or a reaction or seeking solutions. Sometimes we just need to sit. And sit and understand that it is what happened is. And that maybe in a moment we cannot change it, but we can embrace it and accept it. And just slowly come to the awareness that maybe it doesn't even make us feel good. Or maybe, again, it irritates us or makes us feel hurt. It creates pain. But it is okay. Just tell yourself it is okay to experience that and to have these emotions. That means that you can cry, that you can sit with it, that you can put that music on that makes you cry even more because you want to release that pain and these emotions. It is okay. And then when you start writing down beautiful affirmations for yourself in your journal, or you listen to affirmations that are making you feel really good, then again, you can slowly create that sense of self-love and that sense of passion for who you are and who you are being. And with that, we definitely have to let go of perfectionism. I remember reading Brene Brown. I remember that The Gift of Imperfection was a great example. Her books were a great example of how we can just let go of that and just not always want to be perfect, consider to the opinions of somebody else or whatever we have adopted from the outside world that makes us think that it should be perfect. And that should be the definition of perfectionism. What is it anyway? We're all just human beings. We're all just in it for the journey. We're all just trying our most and utmost best. We're just really, everybody is just really the same when it comes to that, when it comes to a reaction pattern, when it comes to learning about life. So take a deep breath, embrace yourself, love yourself for who you are. Love yourself for how you stand into things, how sometimes we react to life, how sometimes we just have to deal with it. I would love for you to reach out and talk to me more. Just reach out by scheduling an appointment with me, a free coaching session. Calendly.com, calendly.com, Coach Eliane/Coach Eliane. I always leave it to you on my website to make that appointment, elianehaan.net, or you can find me on social media and go to that link to schedule an appointment with me if you want to practice more self-compassion, if you want to practice more self-love, if you want to come to me with something that's really bothering you, really just kind of holding you or keeping you from enjoying life to the fullest. And that is just my mission for you, to help you live life to the fullest and find that inner peace, that joyful living. Find that it becomes a little easier because life doesn't become any easier, but you become better at it. And with that quote, that's my quote. With that quote, I'm going to leave you and I hope to see you next week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you will reach out. elianehaan.net. Make it an amazing day.